Ramadan Mubarak Ho. And yeah, Islamic thing. Hence the video. Quite an obvious idea, don't you think? Well, you would, and it still wasn't even mine. Shout out to my man here, probably saved me from another week of drawing blanks. It's hard to think of ideas when you're hungry, at least for me anyway. I'm not myself when I'm hungry. But yes, as we spend this holy month serving, observing, and dare I say slightly suffering while seeking solace in supreme, sacred, and sacrosanct spirituality, let's also take a look at some of those who've magnified the beautiful religion of Islam in the world of sports. 7 greatest Muslim footballers of all time. Let's roll on. Number 7, Sadio Mane. Considered to be in the shadow of another Muslim player we'll see in a bit during most of his 6 years at Merseyside, when looking at their careers as a whole, honestly Mane's career so far may have been better than this mystery future entry. He electrified at Southampton and holds the record for the fastest Premier League hat-trick ever with them. He won it all with Liverpool and was 1/3 of that 66% Muslim and 33% Teeth trio, won the Arab Club Champions Cup with Al Nassr and even won the AFCON with Senegal, for whom is the all-time top scorer. And although he wasn't the main goal getter for any of the club sides he's played for in his career, and although his impact as a player on his club does fall behind most of the others on this list, Sadio Mane has certainly been immense in every team he's played in, and by my estimation, he is one of the more underrated players of the Premier League era. Number 6, Yaya Toure. Also, shout out to his bro who just missed out. Imagine being an invincible and still not cracking it. The competition.
Is that a colour thing?
No, it's competition. Another underrated legend of English football, Yaya Toure was probably the most dominant midfielder I've ever seen play in this country. And honestly, that's saying a lot. Because you see, while Roy Keane had to make up for his lack of physique with tons of aggression, Vieira did most of the dirty work for the more gifted players to flourish. Lampard usually had players like Vieira doing his dirty work so he could flourish. Yaya Toure did it all and made it look easier than all. That doesn't mean he was better than Keane or Vieira, it just means he was more complete, and yes, it certainly means he was more dominant. And in the couple of years where he was in the absolute peak of his powers between ages of 30 and 32, it honestly seemed like he just did what he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted, and there was no one that could have stopped him. And don't add the fact that he was a part of Barca's sextuplers. Astaghfirullah. He ain't had a bad career either, has he? Simply put, Yaya Toure could do everything Steven Gerrard could do, and while he didn't do it for as long, for the brief time he did do it for, he did it better than anyone around. Number 5, N'Golo Kante. Shit. Man, I already went on about how the previous 2 entries were underrated, so now I'm just gonna sound like a broken record. And I know what some of you are thinking, okay? You're probably of the opinion that N'Golo Kante in recent years has finally received the recognition he deserves, and is therefore no longer underrated. I beg to differ. Cause yes, Kante nowadays does get the recognition for being one of the greatest Leicester City midfielders ever. He may get the credit for being one of the greatest Chelsea midfielders ever. Hell, he may even get the credit for being one of the Premier League's greatest midfielders ever. But my man, for me, when it comes to his role in particular, he's one of the greatest midfielders ever, period. There aren't too many players I've seen that can turn the fortunes of an entire team almost entirely on their own. And let's be real, Kante did that for 2 teams. He was the main reason Leicester City won the Premier League. He was one of the main reasons Chelsea bounced back so quickly following the slump in 15-16. He was the man of the match in a Champions League final, and was an integral part of France's World Cup winning team in 2018. A complete career, an amazing baller, and yes, even now, I still do feel he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Number 4, Mohamed Salah. Now here's someone who does get the credit he deserves, especially recently cause boy, the greatest Premier League player ever? Not quite. Greatest Liverpool player ever? Not quite. Greatest Muslim player ever? As you can see, not quite either. But greatest African player ever? Well, also no, but I'm telling you he's very good. Listen, I ain't gonna lie, I do think people are getting a little too carried away when saying that Salah has now surpassed Henry and Ronaldo in the Premier League. Again, comparing stats in different eras is dumb. Besides, as amazing as he's been, this season, at least so far anyway, hasn't exactly been a deal breaker of any sort. Cause again, Mohamed Salah has been a top 10 all-time Premier League player for years now. He's been Liverpool's main man since their resurgence as one of Europe's top clubs post 2015, and his form is now a perfect indication of his maturity as more of a team player, as well as his body rewarding him for his hard work early on in his career. And yes, his collective achievements may fall behind the rest, but as an individual talent having an impact on the teams he's played for, Salah is up there in every single one of those lists I mentioned in the beginning of this entry. Just maybe not at the top. Unlucky, bro. Though you still do have enough time to settle the score, so who knows? Watch this space. Maybe. Number 3, Clarence Seedorf. Yeah, I didn't know either. And this isn't just about his religion, but why does no one know anything about this man? Like legit, Clarence Seedorf might be one of the most underappreciated top level footballers ever. And by the way, notice how this time I used underappreciated and not underrated. Cause to me, an underrated player can also be one who's mentioned in bad light more often than he deserves to be. An underappreciated player is one who simply isn't even mentioned as often as he deserves to be. Like real talk, Clarence Seedorf is the only player ever to win the European club with 3 different sides. Bro, that's crazy. And by the way, this wasn't a Gerard Piqué at United thing where he basically won it as a training cone. Seedorf was a key part of each of the 3 sides he won it with. And well, certainly during my lifetime as a fan, this dude was one of the first midfielders I saw that properly bridged that gap between being a workhorse and a creative attacking force to a world-class level. He can run all day for you, was stronger than anyone around, and yet was able to score and create when called upon too. And as for his religious allegiance, well, he converted to Islam in 2022 at the age of 45, citing influence from his Muslim wife as the driving factor behind the conversion. Good on you, sir. Number 2, Karim Benzema. And in terms of achievements, undoubtedly number 1. And listen, I ain't no conspiracy nut, and I hate people who play the race card in every conversation, but is it a coincidence that this is like the 5th individual on this list that's been underrated for most of his career? It probably is. As I've said before, while those who followed Real closely knew from years back, younger fans and social media clowns only realized the true talent of Karim Benzema when he assumed the role of being Real's main man in the early 2020s, leading Real's league and European double-winning attack in the 21-22 season with 44 goals and an unidentified number of assists in 46 games. But again, for the system Real were playing during the 3P era and even slightly before that, there were very few strikers in the world that could have done the job as well as Karim. He was the forward that held up play in Mourinho's 4-2-3-1, the one that dropped deep in Ancelotti's 4-3-3, and the one that covered the most ground in Zizou's 4-4-2, performing each and every role to an elite level. Oh, and speaking of the Muslim, number 1, Zinedine Zidane. Cause obviously, the man with the coolest name in the game, the only Muslim player to score in 2 different World Cup finals, the only Muslim player to consistently make people's all-time 11, the only Muslim player to consistently get shouts of being the GOAT. And while I don't believe he's quite at that level, there's no doubt for me that Zinedine Zidane is the greatest Muslim footballer there's ever been. Until further notice.
Inshallah.
And that is that. Agree or disagree beats indifference. So what do you think of this list? Are there any Muslim footballers that I've missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, Ramadan Kareem once again. Have a blessed month, brothers. Don't forget to make dua for the less fortunate. And as always, keep rolling.